of 10. If you're out on a date and you're bringing home the lady, it's a sin.
Coach's Corner with Coach Heck and the infamous Coach Patrick King. You're stuck with me, man. I'm stuck. You are stuck with me. I ain't going anywhere.
There's a lot of people that are jealous of me for sitting here, and there's some people that there's a little sympathy going on at the same time.
There's more people that are sympathetic to you. I'm just saying that much right now. Ron, you know you're second in the state in tees.
When I go talk to Turtovich at the scores
Get a
table,
picture.
I said, get as many pictures as you can.
So how long did you guard Larry Bird?
For about 4 or 5 minutes, the rest of the half.
How'd he do? How'd you do against him?
We held him to 48 that afternoon.
And you ain't that good. The scouting report said you were pretty good. You ain't that good. Oh, man. Are you kidding me? Man, and every time I hear that intro, I love that intro. First of all, I love the one where it's Pete Trigovich and you're coaching against him and stuff like that. And you're going to meet him at the scorers table and get that picture of me and Trig, man. And then I love that one where it's a scouting report, man, and they tell you, hey, Heck, this guy you guard, man, he's a stud, he's really good. Make him go right, blah blah blah, and you guard him for the first 2 possessions, and he's a bust, man.
Right.
And then you just say, man, you ain't that good. Well, I mean, our coaches lied on the scouting report. Anyway, welcome to Coach's Corner from the Great Bar Louie, located in Granger, Indiana. The food is spectacular.
Yeah, we just had dinner.
The camaraderie is wonderful. There's about 100 TVs downstairs.
And we had some guys downstairs on the way out. You said, hey, can we come up and listen sometime? We said, yeah, come on up.
Yeah, so we are going to work on our connection here of having a speaker here, so you can sit and listen, man, because I would want to do that.
We need a studio audience.
If I had a chance to take a minute and listen to Coach's Corner with Heck and King, I would certainly like that because I love sports and I love the Chicago Bears. So we're going to talk a little draft a la my outfit today. You're just kind of blah, man. You got nothing going. It's a Nike shirt, nice Nike shirt.
I'm still trying to unpack. I just got back in town.
I know you did, working all these golf outings now, man. You're becoming a professional. You're rubbing elbows with the big boys, Tony Romo, John Schmaltz, Greg Maddox, the Rocket, Roger Clemens.
Yeah, my picture taking's not the best. If you saw my little advertisement for our show today, I had a picture of looking through the golf cart at Tony Romo with his head down, getting ready to swing. That I had to tell you who it was. I've got one of Roger. I tell you what, Roger Clemens is a big man.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
He is a big
He really
man.
is.
Yeah. And he's a good 6'3", 6'4", and he's all of 250.
Yeah, his legs are like tree trunks.
Oh, my gosh.
And think of him at 60 feet, 6 inches, powering off of that mound, and that fastball coming right at you, man. Hey, I'm going to, hit a couple of commercials. We have a great show. We're going to talk to Paul Condrey tonight. Paul is responsible for running a great high school football program called the Gritties. We're going to have Paul tell us about that. We're going to talk to Darren Pritchett tonight of WSBT. Darren Pritchett was at the Blue Gold game. We're going to get his thoughts on who looked good for the Irish. We'll talk some NFL draft today. We got a couple tidbits. The great Carl Erskine passed away, age 97. We'll talk about Carl for a minute. But before we get into any of it, let's start with a couple of sponsors. Tony Letcher with Health Markets Insurance. Whether you need help with your health insurance or Medicare, it's time to get the right coverage for the right price. Call Tony at 574-307-8882 or visit his website at tletcher.com. Hahn Funeral Home, the loss of a loved one can leave you with lots of unanswered questions, man. Really just a very, very hard time in a family's life. And Hahn Funeral Homes of Mishawaka, they are there to help. Their focus has always been on the families that they serve. Hahn Funeral Homes located at 505 West 8th Street in downtown Mishawaka. Call the great Pat Hahn or get a hold of one of his assistants, the great Aaron Heklinski.
You know one of them for sure.
Yeah, who's taken classes at Worsham College in Chicago, is taking them online. to get his funeral director's license. When I go to bed, I lock my bedroom door now because I don't want him practicing on me when he needs a cadaver to do something. Aaron, no, you're not cutting my arm.
Do they? I would say
No.
they drain through the femoral vein, so you got to be careful.
No, he knows it all, man. He's throwing all those names to me. I'm saying, hey, stop. I don't even know about this Magic Mind. I've been taking it, man. I'm probably on 3 weeks now, and I just cannot tell you my focus, my ability to be relaxed, my ability to have less stress. I think it's amazing. My focus, my clarity, magicmind.com. You can pull it up and put in Coach's Corner 20 and you'll get a 20% discount. We are going to get you on it because I'll be really interested to hear your take on it. I mean, we play around with this a little bit, but I'm really interested to catch your take and to see if you got. I mean, seriously. I mean, if it
my
helps you.
focus is.
Yeah, I mean, how your focus is. But anyway, Magic Mind is amazing. You got Frick's Drivers, right?
Frick's Driving School coming up. Matter of fact, I'm driving this week. I'm back in action. I'm going to drive Wednesday and Thursday, but they are, the weather's getting warmer. Everybody wants to get their drives in right now. I got to get these done. And kids are turning 16 and they realize they got to do it. It's just amazing how many of them call and say, I've got to get this done. And they say, well, we can only do one a week. One of those things. Need to plan that out. So anyways, Frick's Driving School, give them a call. Scott's got the number there on the screen for you. Scott, I don't know if you guys can see this one or not. Bar Louie, I read this on the news the other day. Happy hours are back. They've been, I don't know if you realize it, but you couldn't do happy hours for the longest time. You couldn't call them happy hour.
So what would you call them? Sad hour?
They just didn't have them.
Hey, we're having sad ass hour.
But here they've got these here at Bar Louie.
Hours.
It might be
What is the
sad.
matter with me?
Happy hours, upgrade your afternoons, Monday through Friday, 4 to 7. And they've got a big old list of appetizers. I could read them to you. Flatbreads, your little bar bites with the chicken tenders and quesadillas and all kinds of good stuff. So check out Bar Louie. I'm sure this is on their website as well. But they do have happy hour now, too.
Yeah,
and
I am so happy about that.
And downstairs, I did see on the way in, Wednesday, 2 days from now, Wednesday night is tequila tasting night.
That will go over well with my liver transplant doctor.
You might have to be one of the judges for that or something.
I will say, the time that you had some chemo done on your face with a little pre-cancer and stuff like that, and I was laughing at you, man. I gotta admit, I was cracking at you, calling you chemo boy, right?
Chemo face, that's right.
Chemo face, chemo boy, blah blah blah. I go to the dermatologist to get everything checked, to make sure I'm cool.
I just had it on my face. Tell me about yours.
They say I got a little scab on my head, right in my part line, and they say, let me take a biopsy of that. It's cool. It's nothing. They call me back 4 days later, say, you got basal cell cancer, and we got to dig that out. So I go. So they put a hole in my head, basically.
So he's leading up. You people that know him and know about his hair, there's a reason for this hat.
Oh, I'm not got a hole in my head.
He's got a divot.
It's not a divot. It's a hole the size of about $50.
He's got a divot
in my head because that's how they had to dig it out and get the margins clear. But here's the deal. When they do that on your head, they don't stitch it back together. Okay? They let it heal from the inside out. I got a hole. Now, a lot of people my whole life, they said, heck, you got a hole in your head, man. You're crazy. I got a hole in my head. And so, if you do this,
my thoughts right now are just
they're all over. I know they are.
I can't say what I'm thinking.
But it is painful because anytime you move like you move your eyes up or you move your skin or your scalp a little bit. I mean, you can see my skull, and I'm going, stop! This is insane. So I gotta have a cover on it.
I just can't imagine what the guys that your card playing buddies down in Anderson from 15 years ago. I think Rick Muir and all those guys.
Oh, P.T. Morgan, Rick Muir, the late great
Danforth.
Pete Danforth, man.
What would what they're thinking?
They would be cracking on my ass like you can't believe. like you can't believe. But
Can you believe that the comb over we're going to have here for about a month? I mean, he's going to. You need to go back and get some Gene Katie notes
I
here.
will have a comb over from my ears all the way over. I mean, if they're going to have to put a hole there, they got to cut some of my hair out, right?
You have to go get some sod from the sod.
That's funny as hell. I was thinking of a little piece of a toupee and glue in there, but sod is funny as hell.
Well, who was
I
it?
like
You
that.
said it was Pete. You said Pete Wood's dad got a wig.
Kim
And
Wood's dad.
Kim Wood's dad. Yeah, his dad Pete, and glued it to the back of a baseball hat.
Yeah.
And he was bald on the top.
Yeah,
and
because he was going through cancer and
put
he
a little
lost his
hair.
hair.
Tied it to the back of his hat.
It was hilarious. So I don't know. I may get some Elmer's glue and get a little piece of gray carpet or something and throw it in there. Who
Get
cares?
some green astroturf and put up there.
Yeah. Hey. So as I started out with the great Carl Erskine, man, 97 years old, grew up in the city of Anderson. His best friend as kids was Jumpin' Johnny Wilson. They were in the same grade. And as Carl Erskine made the comment, because Carl Erskine played with Jackie Robinson.
Yes,
And
you
Carl
talk about
Erskine-
the correlation of all that.
Yeah, and Carl Erskine was asked, does it bother you from a color standpoint of hanging out with Jackie Robinson? Carl Erskine said, "Are you kidding me? Not at all. My best friend was Johnny Wilson, and I really didn't even know what color he was because he was my best friend."
Yeah. And Jack Rector Sr. was part of that group too, growing up there in the 40s.
Yeah, no, just a great. I mean, first of all, a great athlete. Played basketball at Anderson, a 1946 state champions.
Yes.
With the great Jumpin' Johnny Wilson, and obviously great baseball pitcher. Got drafted by the Brooklyn Dodgers.
And see the story my dad used to tell, because my dad was 2 years younger than those guys, and he would tell me that those guys got moved up to the varsity in 44 because a lot of the seniors got drafted and had to go to the war because their draft number came up. So right in the middle of the season, they said, "We're gone." So they took those freshmen and sophomores and moved them up to the varsity. That's where those guys got their start. They might have had to play a little bit before they were ready. You just never know. But in the 44 season during the war, some of the players, if your number came, if you were 18, you couldn't say, "Hey, I'm busy playing basketball."
No.
You went to the war.
No, it's the draft system. If your birthday came up, and that was back in the 60s also. I mean, there was one day a year that they would poll birthdays.
Yeah.
And if you weren't going to college and they polled your birthday, you were going to Vietnam.
Well, and you and I, or at least my age group, 1955, we were the first ones. I had to go register for the draft, but we were the first ones that did not have an actual draft. The 54, they had draft numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
In 55, we did not because they were busy getting out of Vietnam at the time. So I was lucky by 1 year.
Yeah, and so Carl Erskine just has a great professional baseball career. I mean, wins World Series with the Brooklyn Dodgers. When Brooklyn gets moved over to LA, goes to LA, and just has a wonderful career. But beyond being a great baseball player, Carl Erskine was a great humanitarian.
Well, you figure he was retired for 60 years there in the Anderson area. And here, before you move on to that, the trivia: who was the opening day pitcher at Dodger Stadium in the 61 season when Brooklyn moved to Los Angeles? Answer:
it's not Greg Maddox.
it was Carl Erskine.
It's got to be the great Carl Erskine.
It was Carl
man.
Erskine. He was one of the few boys of summer that did go to Los Angeles. He was one of the youngest ones of the group.
Yeah, no, and just a phenomenal baseball player. But then he comes back to Anderson. He retires. He comes back to Anderson, and he becomes just a great humanitarian. He's the head baseball coach at Anderson University for a while. He's the president of a bank. Has a mentally handicapped son with Down syndrome, Jimmy.
His family basically, I wouldn't say started, but they really pushed the Special Olympics. With the Special Olympics that of today, the Erskine family was really the ones that started that and got it going. full speed ahead because of their son Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy just passed, and I want to say Jimmy just passed away maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, just here in the last year.
And so obviously Carl at age 97, I mean, just a great long life. Was a great harmonica player. Would play in several bands. Would play the Star Spangled.
He played the national anthem for the Pacer games.
Yeah. On
Just
on his harmonica.
recently. Yeah, just recently.
Yeah. So
his daughter Susie and I grew up together. She was a cheerleader, and we were the same age. She went to Central, and I went to Northside.
Yeah, so may the great Carl Erskine rest in peace, and just know that the legacy that he left is an ongoing and a lasting legacy.
Yeah, God bless that Erskine family's big names. They were good people.
Hey, I'm going to try and get Paul Condrey on the line here, and why don't you and Scott get a couple of commercials going, and we'll get Paul going.
Sounds good to me.
Are we just playing the sound effects?
No, he pushed the wrong button. He hit that instead of the mute. Hey, I was going to tell you, I was down there at that golf tournament in Las Colinas. I just got back last night. I was mentioning it was that invited celebrity tournament that some of you might have watched on the Golf Channel yesterday. And the celebrities, there were 2 different tournaments within it. Each group had a foursome, 2 pros from the senior tour, 2 celebrities. Marty Fish, the tennis player, won the celebrity portion of it. They played a Stableford. So you got 2 points. You got 2 points for a par, 3 for birdies, such and things like that. John Smoltz was second. Annika Sorenstam played. She was in the top 5. I followed Tony Romo around a little bit. I was in one fairway, dodging errant shots. And that was what was interesting for me. Some of the other names that people might recognize, you had Tom Glavine, John Lester, Ray Allen, basketball player.
John Lester played?
Yep. Joe Carter. Matter of fact, Alfonso Ribeiro, Fresh Prince. Ribeiro. DeCarlton was there. Matter of fact, he came down and hit one in the wrong fairway. I had to find his ball because it plugged in the mud. And then he had to hit it over a tree. I just saw his second shot on one. I actually talked to him. He was fun because he goes, that tip of tree? And I said, yeah. I said, did you plan for that? He goes, no. I said, well, don't tell anybody. I said, it's on the green like that. And he just started laughing. So we had a good little 30 seconds there.
Hey, I'm going to tell you who was also a lot of fun is the great Paul Condrey. Paul Condrey is the president of Regional Radio Sports Network, the publisher of Indiana Football Digest, the program director for the Gritties. And we want to chat with Paul a little bit tonight about the Gritties. Paul, how you doing, man?
Great to be with you guys. Thanks for taking time to talk American tackle football in the month of April. You can't do that enough these days.
Well, no, I mean, with the NFL draft coming up, with the blue gold game, with all of the spring football games now, I mean, it seems like, I mean, we're always in football season. But anyway, talk about this program called the Gritties that you established 18 years ago, and tell our listeners a little bit about it, please.
Well, it's a real easy one. And you two guys, as basketball guys, I did it just to spite you because that was my whole mindset was it was right during the middle of basketball season. I thought, why don't we have a big football party right in the middle of basketball season just to tick off all the basketball coaches? So that was really kind of my mindset going into this, was to have a big football party right during March Madness. And so initially our first couple Gritties were in March, but since I'm kind of since I work in partnership with the Indianapolis Colts over the course of the last quarter century, one of the things that I'm kind of at the liberty of only being able to have the Great Hall, if you will, or in this case the football center. I'm using their facilities as well as the practice field there, and so there's only X amount of weekends that I get a chance to use it. So, and lately it's been in April. So, the whole mindset was to promote high school football. We decided to, and each year we've added a little bit of a new wrinkle to it, but we try to honor our state runners up from a year ago, our state champions. We announce our coaches of the year, our assistant coaches of the year, our excellence in football media. We announce our big school and small school. Big school would be 4A, 5A, and 6A, and small school will be class 1A through 3A. We announce those, and then we have several specialized awards, and then of course we always announce our primetime 25. So the mindset and my vision of the whole program was to let's celebrate the year in football, and let's make the transition into the new school year, which is going to be the fall of the following year. And that's kind of how I went about it. We wanted to be able to honor kids for their great work, coaches for their dedication. And I knew we were going to be onto something really good, because the first banquet that we did, we had 450 people, and it was on Mother's Day. So I knew if we can do something like that and have that kind of success, we were going to be in a pretty good shape. Every one of the banquets have been sold out, with the exception of the 3 years we had the COVID thing going on. So, and of course, the final part of the day is we announced that our primetime 25, which will be the kids that will be on the cover of the upcoming edition of the Indiana Football Digest. So that's kind of the mindset. That was kind of the vision. But it really came down to me just wanting to tick off all the basketball coaches more than anything else.
Yeah, and I find that really amazing, because I mean, you're an ex-basketball coach, man, and you,
I know,
and you loved coaching basketball.
I
during
did,
your
and
tenure.
I still do, and I love doing basketball. But sometimes you just got to just rub people the wrong way just to get a good feel. You know how it is when when your kids were little and the boys, and you used to get them in a headlock and you'd rub your knuckles over the top of their noggin.
Yeah, I do.
That's kind of what it was like.
I do know that, because my older brothers did that to me about 100 times a day, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you were the younger brother, weren't you?
Yeah. Hey, so I mean, a lot of awards that you give out: Community Involvement and Impact Award, Darren Thomas from the Indianapolis Public Schools, a Lifetime Achievement Award, the Bless Boys from Indianapolis. Now, there was one of the Blesses that was the head football coach at the old Indiana Central University.
Mm-hmm.
Which one was that?
Well, that was the legendary Bill Bless. He was the father of Mark Bless, Tim Bless, and Scott Bless. And that's a very unique, and I'll walk you through some of the awards, but I would like to start with the one that starts at home, which is right here in Michiana. And that's the Jason Koontz Badge of Courage. And Pat will remember the legendary Mike Koontz, because when Pat was coaching, he remembered Mike. Mike Koontz was the longest running tenured football coach as a head coach in the history of South Bend School Corporation. He was the head coach at Clay for 20 plus years. And one of his sons, Jason, had a brain tumor.
Right. I remember.
And eventually Jason came to work for me for about 12, 13 years while he was also teaching up in Michigan. So, and I got a chance to meet Jason when he was about 4 years old, and I'll never forget meeting him. And he was such a big fan of the Indiana Football Digest. And as Mike and Sharon were going through all the difficulties they had with Jason having the stent put in the back of his head for his brain, and it was just so many difficult things. And Jason is without question one of the greatest human beings I've ever encountered in my 67 years here on this earth. Just a great kid. I had a heart of gold. Wasn't allowed to play sports because of the brain tumor and the brain stent that they had put in. So a few years back, we instituted the Jason Koontz Badge of Courage Award. And obviously, Brian Koontz was there to give out that award on behalf of his brother, who's in heaven now. And, of course, last year, Mike was there to announce that. But we've been great friends with the Koontz family. So we picked out this kid by the name of Landon Holloway of West Washington. And there was not a dry eye in the house when he got up there, because he's still in his fight for cancer. And he's just battling like there's no tomorrow. And so that was one of the awards. That was a transformative award. And then we mentioned the Lifetime Achievement. I'll back up to that one. But Mark Bless, Tim Bless, and Scott Bless, all three of those guys have been great coaches at their respective schools. Mark, of course, who finished up his career at Avon High School. Timmy was at Columbus North, and Scotty Bless was at Bloomington North. Those guys won a lot of football games. And we had Tyler Bless, Mark's son, who's now the head football coach at Plainfield High School, had a chance to introduce his brothers. All three of the brothers got up and spoke for a couple minutes, and we give that out each and every year. We had the Community Involvement and Impact Award. My good friends Danny Muir and Mathis were there, Robert Mathis were there to present that award, and it's nice to be able to hang out with probably a guy who's going to be going into the Hall of Fame, I'm going to guess, at some point in time. Robert Mathis is the Colts all-time leading sack leader. So those guys were there to announce those awards. And finally, to Darren Thomas. Darren does a wonderful job, and the city. He's in charge of a lot of athletes, and it's making football a priority. And finally, our other major award was the Brad Breifogel Spirit of Sport Award, which we gave out to Larry Bud Wright. Larry's the winningest coach in American tackle football in the Hoosier State. He was coaching football just right about the time you and Heck and I we were probably in grade school, and that really, really goes back a long way. So,
and he's just been at one school, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You got it, Coach.
Yeah.
I mean, he started out at Mount Ayers for his first year, and then all those other years since then, he's been at Sheridan High School.
Mm-hmm.
And he's coached some great players, some guys in the NFL. One guy I think you can make the argument is maybe one of the greatest special teams players in the history of college football. You guys remember Brad Maynard, who had a great career at Ball State? I mean, here's your trivia question for tonight, if you hadn't had one. Who's the only player in the history of all the major conferences to be the conference MVP, and he was a punter?
Yeah, and he played for your
Brad Maynard.
And he played for my beloved Chicago Bears, right?
Yeah.
Nothing else to say to a Packer fan.
Nothing else to say because it's not what we're talking about.
Yeah. So there's another award that I want to talk about. It's the excellence in football media, because John Finneran, I think, is one of the best at it. He's a great guy, and he's been in this business for a long time. Talk about John for a minute.
Yeah, well, John's he's just got a heart of gold. He really, really does. I just have a tremendous amount of respect for him. He's just one of the greatest journalists our area's ever produced. And, of course, he took a hiatus where he moved to Tampa and worked down there, was a big part of that Tampa baseball beat there. And, of course, you can make the argument, since he writes for Golf Magazine, that he may be the best golf writer in the Midwest, if not nationally. And, of course, he wrote for the AP for many, many years. And now, of course, he's been doing high school sports. He was doing high school sports. I mean, he's a product of New Jersey. And all I have to tell you is anybody who's got Jack Nicklaus on his speed dial on his phone, that guy's got some serious props going on there. And Finn's a great dude. I know Patty was talking about some golfing going on, but I think I'd like to get John Finneran's golf buddies matched up against Pat King's golf buddies, and I think I'm gonna win that one.
Yes, you would.
Yeah, without question. Now, the Indiana Football Digest has been a magazine that you've put together for many, many, many years. Talk about the Football Digest for a minute.
Well, first of all, thanks for taking the time to do this. We started the Indiana Football Digest in 1993. It was an eye-popping 78 pages in its infancy. It was basically northern Indiana. If you were to draw a straight line, which would be AKA US 30, it was basically a northern Indiana publication. Then year two, we moved it down south to Indianapolis. And then year three, we're at Bloomington. Year four, it became a statewide publication. So if you look at the way the transformation of the book, as we're getting ready to, as we're hitting the home stretch here on our 33rd annual book, it's just it's taken on a life of its own. It's now the largest high school football magazine in the United States. It's the second oldest in the United States, behind the legendary Dave Campbell's Texas Football. And I got to give Dave Campbell's Texas Football a lot of credit, because I saw that about 35 years ago when I was down visiting my parents, where my parents retired in Northwest Arkansas. And I saw a copy of it in Walmart. And I said, man, we got to do one of these back in Indiana. So I did. I took that book home. I made some modifications in my own mind and my own heart. And I says, we're going to do this in Indiana. And so lo and behold, here we are 33 years later, and we're still plugging away, still doing it. You know, of course, the Indiana Football Digest has a page for every team in the state, plus all of our colleges. Even your beloved Fighting Irish of Notre Dame have a page in there for you, Ronnie. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I'm ecstatic about that. But I don't know if you knew, but Pat King coached football in Texas for maybe 7 years, right?
I did, yes. I did.
Where did you coach at, Pat?
I was at Plano East when they first opened.
Oh, my.
I was at Plano East when they first opened in '82.
So is that just outside the Metroplex?
Yes, just straight north, straight up Central Expressway. They went from one 5A school to two 5A schools. Yeah,
man, you're talking some serious pigskin stuff down there, man.
Yeah, I didn't know what I'd gotten into, but you're exactly right. The first game I went to was at Highland Park, and it was actually at Texas Stadium. Plano was playing Highland Park, and Highland Park's quarterback was named Hugh McElhenney. And, and Plano had a defensive lineman named Billy Ray Smith Jr. How's that from names how's that for some names out of the past?
Oh, those are some names. And Texas has got such a rich tradition. Yeah, and getting back to the whole history of this, when I first got Dave Campbell's Texas Football, I looked at it and I thought to myself, you know, it's so college heavy. And if you guys remember, and Pat, you would remember this, because the old Southwest Conference, which had all these Texas schools and then Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousin played football at Arkansas, so that was kind of my tie-in there to the Southwest Conference. So, but when I got Dave Campbell's book, I thought to myself, there's way too much college football in this book. If they were to put as much attention to the high school stuff as they would to the college, and little did I know, because I wasn't living down there at the time, so I thought to myself, I'm going to do just the opposite as they're doing. I'm going to put a 90% attention on high school sports and put a 10% attention on college sports. And that was going to be my ratio. And that's kind of how it went, and that's kind of how it's gone ever since then.
And that's why you're number one. You were north of US 30, and you gradually, 1 year at a time, got a little larger because you realized how big of a task that was doing all those high school teams.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And in the early stages, for the first 20 years, I went to every high school in the state. I visited every kid. I took every kid's picture. I'm not doing that anymore. But you guys will remember. And I know, Ronnie, you and I have had this conversation, because it was at one point in time we were doing a basketball book in our state too. So we were doing both the football and the basketball book, and it just got to be so labor intensive, and I had to pick between one or the other. And football seemed to be something that needed the attention. Gary Donna was doing his basketball book. It was kind of like fighting an endless battle with that. And nothing against Gary's book, and I'm happy that Kip's kind of kept that going on. But I just realized that, the football book was going to be something that we were going to be able to hang our hat on. And thus, I've been blessed to be able to not only do the football book, but work for the Colts. I just signed my 25th 1-year contract with the Colts. I've always done it that way, because I've always told them, I said, well, hey, you guys want to do this again next year? And I said, yeah, let's do it again. And that's kind of just been my mindset. It kind of gives me an ability that, hey, if I'm ready to hang it up, I'm ready to hang it up. So, but we're excited about the upcoming year, excited about all the content you'll be able to read on Colts.com, which will feature all the kind of stuff that we'll be doing. It's kind of like the weekly version of the Indiana Football Digest, and you can check that on Colts.com/high school football, and you'll be able to follow year round on all our work. So that's kind of the long and short of what's going on currently.
Yeah,
you also
I've got a quick question too here when you get done.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've got a quick question for you, Indianapolis area. Who's the front runners for the Roncalli football job? Have you heard?
That just popped open today, and I'm gonna plead the. That was a surprise to me.
Okay.
I talked to Eric a couple weeks ago, and I did not see that coming. unless there was something going on. I would not be surprised if he lands someplace else. There are several other marquee jobs that are open. And as you guys well know, you guys been around the whole parochial school environment, whether coaching against it or heck, I know that you were coaching in the parochial schools in Indianapolis earlier or just not too long ago. I guess it was 7, 8 years ago.
Yep.
And so you guys know it's a very unique dynamic because let's face it, you're not going to get at the top of the pay scale, and the chances of them getting a high profile coach will be slim to none unless it's someone who's really wanting to, if you want to use this, take a step back and maybe not have the pressures of a big school. And so it's very unique. Those parochial schools have been a great launching pad for guys to go on to great careers, as we know. You look with Dick Dullahan. Dick Dullahan started at Bishop Chatard. We can go on and on about all the great coaches that started at parochial schools, and then it just financially they had greater opportunities and bigger opportunities. And so,
well, and the reason I kind of asked you about that was the coach prior to that there at Roncalli was one of my college friends, Bruce Cyphers. He and I were teammates there.
One of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, Bruce and I were teammates. He was the running back and I was the quarterback. So I just turned to hand the ball off to Bruce and say, "Run."
Well, I'll tell you what, he was a ornery cuss when he was playing, I was told. So,
oh yeah.
And he was a tremendous football coach, a great mentor, a great man of God, one of my longtime friends, Pat. And as you well know, you get a guy like that he's a culture changer guy.
Yes, he is.
And I think, and that's what programs need if they're going to have success. They have to change the culture. And it's not about offenses and defenses. It's about, we've always talked about this. It's not about the X's and the O's. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes. And if you get the Jimmies and the Joes to do all the things they need to be able to do, then you can do some really cool things with the X's and the O's. And I think that's kind of the mindset that they're going to have there at Roncalli going forward.
Without question, Paul. Then you talk about someone like Ott Hurley, who goes to Scecina and stays for 100 years and just wins a lot of games. And I think Ott just retired this year, correct?
That is correct. He did. Of course, he took that little bit of a hiatus there where he went and coached some college football for a while, but he was back where he belonged. That's another guy that's, found his niche and had a lot of success. That's one of those jobs that still is open. So there's several marquee jobs going. I think talking with Matt Copsey earlier today that we're upwards to 40 jobs that are changing hands. And this is an alarming thing because it's been we did a feature in last year's book about the overall turnover, but we're seeing this, and you guys know this. I mean, as former coaches, you always got to keep your mind's eye on, why are these jobs turning over so fast? And it's difficult to be a coach today. In today's culture and today's mindset. Number one, parents sometimes are just crazy. Now we're getting to the situations where athletes, a coach will say hi to another guy over here at an event, and the next thing you know, the other coach is accusing him of recruiting, and there's all that stuff. We've got open enrollment. There are so many moving parts. I don't know. You have to be a real special person. And you have to have a great culture if you're really going to be successful in education-based athletics in today's society. I know, heck, you and I have had that conversation 100 times driving back and forth the ball games about culture. And you got to have it if you're going to be successful. And I think both you guys during the course of your careers, you guys created great culture. And that's the reason both of you guys were really good at your jobs when you were coaching.
I've always said that the high school coach, and I don't know, maybe 15 years ago or so, that the high school coach used to be the number one factor in any high school athlete's career. But now I don't think that's a big factor. I think number one is the AAU coach. who gets most of the juice. I think number 2 is the trainer, the guy that coaches speed, the guy that works with quarterbacks, and number 3 I think is the dad, because he's paying 1 and 2, and so the high school coach now is probably down 3 levels than what he used to be.
Well, I know, and once again, we've had this conversation a lot, not only on our shows, but we probably had this conversation many times. We come from a generation where our high school coach was revered. I mean, and I know it's cliche, but we would run through a wall. And I know that is such a cliche, but that's the way it used to be. It's not that way anymore. And we're not going back. And we can face the fact that it's never going to be that way. But if you can get into those rare situations in a rare community that allows that type of culture to permeate and just kind of grow, I think that's what's exciting. We all grew up. We're all close enough in the age group where we had people. My high school coaches saved my life and changed my life forever. There are guys who played for Pat King and played for Ron Heklinski. Those guys will say the same thing about you guys, because they say, those guys, I would have ran through a wall for Pat King or for Ron Heklinski. And I even had some of my kids, that it's been back since the late 70s and early 80s when I was coaching. I still have kids who still call me coach, still pick up the phone. If they got a life-changing thing going on, I'm one of those phone calls. And I was just a middle school coach at the time. I was freshman coach. And so if I'm having an impact at the level I did, I know you guys had an impact. I just hope that our younger generation of coaches will have the impact that the Heklinskis, the Kings, and the Condries did.
But if you think about it, just on personal level for the two of us, I'm sure both of us remember who our 8th grade coach was, our freshman coach was, and some of the things they did, because we had teachers in the classroom that had those positions. Matter of fact, some of the coaches, my freshman coaches, ended up going to Anderson College to coach football. They went from the freshman level, they bypassed high school and went straight to the college level. So we had some good quality people coming up, and people that held you responsible even at an early age. So then when you got to high school, that wasn't something new to you. You knew what the expectations were. So I totally agree with you. But times have changed, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, they are. And Bob Dylan talks about it all the time when he says times are changing. Hey, listen, Paul, we want to thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule to hop on with us and talk some football and talk some philosophies on Coach's Corner with us. You're the best, man. You do such a great job with high school athletics, college athletics, your work at Bethel, your work at IUSB, your work at Holy Cross. You're phenomenal with it. And I know I speak for a million coaches that just want to thank you for all the things that you do for athletes.
Well, I tell you what, I was blessed to be able to have some great coaches that taught me how to do things right. And I still hang around with some coaches who still do things right, like you guys. So thanks for the opportunity. God bless you guys. Appreciate the time.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks, Paul. See you, man. Yeah, Paul Condrey is the best. He's his vision, his ability to see, things like this gritty program and the Indiana Football Digest. He's held that together for 33 years. That's amazing.
And he's nonstop. He's 7 days a week. He's either on the air or he's doing behind the scenes things like this.
Yeah, and he does. And on Thursdays we do a legend show.
Yeah, you've got during basketball, he's gone 2-3 nights a week doing college games.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's great. It's a part that I've been able to latch on to now, because now that we're not coaching,
right,
we can go talk about basketball. We can go talk about football. We can share our opinions on the sport that we're talking about. So it's been great for me, and I know it's been great for you to be involved with that too. Hey, I am going to get the great Darren Pritchett on the line. Go ahead and go over a couple of things, and I'll get Darren on.
We can do that, Scott. Let me finish up some of my golf stuff. I was mentioning some of the people that we had at the celebrities tournament. We were talking about. I had Carlton Here's one, Scott. You would know. Dwight. Let me start over. Dwight Freeney was there. Now, as a defensive lineman, I'm thinking defensive lineman playing golf. I just didn't know if it fit. But you know what? He wasn't too bad. He wasn't bad at all. Albert Pujols was there. He could hit it a mile. And I don't think that surprises anybody. And Greg Maddux, the old pitcher from the Braves, was there. Ray Allen, basketball player. So had some nice, those were some of the celebrities. Like I said, Tony Romo was there. And I think he didn't win. Last year, he actually won. This year, he was, I believe, third or fourth place. And on the pro side, Paul Broadhurst won with 11 under par. David Toms was second at 10 under par. They had to shorten this to a 36-hole tournament. We got rained out Saturday, and Scott and I went house shopping, but we played on Friday, and we played all day on Sunday. And if you watch the Golf Channel, they might even have a replay of it on tonight and during the week here. It was called the Invited Celebrity Classic, and I did find out the Invited is the new name for the Club Corp people. So, for example, here in our area, Knollwood Country Clubs used to be called Club Corp. They're now were bought out by Invited. So that's who was the sponsor of this tournament. It was in Las Colinas, which is in Irving, Texas, and we had a blast. I had a chance to see my two brothers. Scott, do you have that picture, by the way? I'm going to do a little public shaming here. We went to church yesterday.
No.
And we had a baptism. My brother Jeff, his daughter Allison has a 1-year-old, Sage, and we had a baptism yesterday.
What a beautiful name.
So that was our event. The Kings were there, the Benjes were there. We had all kinds of, and we filled up 3 pews there at the church. We had a house full.
I have the pictures, but I am not going to put them up because people on the internet are weird.
Yes, no, we don't. No, you're exactly right.
That's fair enough.
That's why our producer Scott King is the absolute
which
best.
is why I get mad at you when you always blabber about what I do for a living and where I am.
Exactly. We have the great Darren Pritchett online here with us, and Darren, how you doing, man?
Guys, I'm doing great, and I am loyal to this podcast. I'm not accepting NIL from other podcasts. I only do this one. So, in the world of cash, I'm all on this show right now.
Well, we certainly appreciate that, man.
The NIL.
Certainly appreciate that. Yesterday,
very deep.
So yesterday, you had something that I'm sure was pretty emotional for you. You had your son's a senior high school basketball banquet, huh?
Yeah, we got the band back together one more time. I mean, Coach, it was a special year, and gosh, to get to the Elite Eight was awesome. And we did a little research, and you were obviously a part of the first 2 years of this, but the senior class went something like 68-35, which is the best 4-year run dating back to at least 1985, and I don't have any records to go further. So obviously, Coach, you were a big part of that, and Bodie kept it going. So, man, it was a beautiful Hoosier hysteria ride for 3 weeks. So as a kid from Illinois that knew all about March Madness in our state, I got sucked into Hoosier hysteria pretty strong this year and last year as well.
Yeah, I know you did, and the fact that you had a son playing, and I mean, I would see you doing those games, and you would be so nervous and wanting Coop to do his thing and play really well, and most of all wanting the Cavemen to win, and so it's always fun watching you and having you, on our broadcast a little bit with Brian Miller and WSBT.
I'll always be appreciative. You brought him up to varsity at the tail end of his freshman year. Got a little taste of the sectional over in Michigan City. I mean, little things like that make a difference when you go on a big run like we had this year. So thank you, Coach. And hi, Coach King. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I love the golf talk, man. Scotty Scheffler's just
isn't he amazing?
Right now.
They finished that one this morning. I watched the last 3 or 4 holes this morning. They had an 8 o'clock finish because of the rain there at Hilton Head that they had.
I mean, Scotty Scheffler's on fire, man. He's really good. The Masters on Saturday, I believe. I mean, he had the 2-stroke lead. He double bogeys. He loses the lead, and he's down 2 strokes. He's calm. He just goes and he plays. Next thing I know, he's up 2 strokes again, heading into Sunday, and he's just a pro, man. Yeah.
Guys, we need to go to the range and work on our footwork and just move them all over the place because everything we were told not to do, he does, and man, it works for him.
But what's amazing is he's 27 years old. And he's got a lot of golf ahead of him, but he's on a hot streak right now, plain and simple. This is his time, so enjoy it.
Did you see the picture of him at Inwood Tavern after he won wearing his green jacket?
Yeah, being a kid.
Yeah, well, he is a kid, 27, right?
Yeah, he goes
It's
home.
it's like the diviest of dive bars ever.
It is a dive bar. down on Greenville Avenue, isn't it?
Hey,
I mean, it's right off of Inwood. That's why it's called Inwood Tavern.
talk about
Yeah, Greenville and Inwood.
Hey, talk about that blue and gold game of Notre Dame that took place last Saturday.
Well, I tell you what, I called the game on WSBT radio, so I had to watch the ball mainly, and I watched a little bit of the game back. But I don't know, guys. I've been doing this 25 years, and I know recency bias sometimes overwhelms us as media members. But I'm telling you guys, if everything goes to plan and they stay healthy and people develop, it's hard to find many rosters the last 25 years that Notre Dame has had that has the potential to be like this group. I'm just amazed. The linebacker group has young, fast, talented guys. I'll give you one example, if you don't mind, guys. Jaden Osbury went to high school on the edge of LSU's campus. So Brian Kelly recruited him, and Marcus Freeman got him. This is a linebacker that in the game lined up in the slot against Jaden Greathouse, one of the quicker wide receivers, works the middle of the field beautifully. He was stride for stride running with him and had a pass breakup. That's a linebacker on a slot receiver. That's just an example of some of the versatility that they have. And guys, I'll tell you what, if Riley Leonard comes back healthy and he improves his accuracy and his decision-making, which I think he does have to do coming from Duke, and this is the big one, if the offensive tackles develop, right now that's the major concern. Guys, there's no reason why they shouldn't be hosting a playoff game in December at the University of Notre Dame. I feel really good about the direction of this bunch. And I'm not a homer and I'm not a flag waver. I just feel like this is as talented of a roster they've had in some time.
So I think you're on to something, because I want you to answer this question for me, and let's see if you know it. 1985, the Bears are the absolute best. Obviously, I got my Bears shirt on, got my Bears hat today because we'll talk about the draft a little bit. But 1985, Buddy Ryan and Mike Ditka go at it on the sideline during a game, and let's see if you know the reason why they did that, and in what game had great significance to what you said about a linebacker guarding a wide receiver.
Oh, why they got into it. Oh, boy. Well, I was in Central Illinois as a 14-year-old at that time, and I was not a Bears fan, so heck, don't get mad at me. I remember the incident, but I don't remember what caused it.
I'm going to tell you, it's the only loss of the 85 season when they played the Miami Dolphins. And
Monday night,
the Miami Dolphins spread the Bears 46 defense out, and the Bears had to guard a wide receiver with Wilbur Marshall, one of the linebackers. And, the wide receiver just torched him, and the Bears had seen nothing like it. And at halftime, Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan get into it, and Mike Ditka says, "You better get this stuff straightened out, or I'm firing you when this game's over." And they were nose to nose, and obviously they didn't get it figured out because the Dolphins went on to hand the Bears their only loss. Now you asked me, heck, how do you know that? I'm going to tell you how I know it. Magic Mind. I take Magic Mind. Been on it for 3 weeks now.
He reminds me of this often.
Been on it for 3 weeks. I remembered that exact segment of sports in my life. But no, it's exactly what you said. The athleticism that Notre Dame is recruiting now, whether it's at linebacker, whether it's at tight end, Eli Reardon, he's big, he's strong, but he runs like a wide receiver. And I think it all comes down to their quarterback play. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, it's Riley Leonard's development and the offensive tackles. If they stay healthy, and that's always the most important thing. I mean, Riley has the ability. We saw it in the Notre Dame game last September. He took over that game by running the football. And with his power and speed, he is a tremendous weapon. I think ball placement accuracy is something that's got to get better. And under Mike Denbrock, I hope that can happen. But I'll tell you what, Coach, one thing that you'll see different with Tommy Reese and Coach Parker last year, I mean, they used a lot of 12 and 13 versus a lot of 2-3 tight end sets. You're not going to see that as much. Mike Denbrock wants to run the football by spreading the field. He wants to get people away from the line of scrimmage, and he wants those running backs to have space to run. You get corners on the field rather than linebackers, and he's just going to do it in a different way. And they've shown a lot of 4 and 5 wide receiver sets in the blue gold game, and I mean, I'm excited to have Mike back. First, he's an awesome guy. I got to know him a little bit. He loves Notre Dame with all his heart, and he has learned so much as a coordinator the last few years. I think it can really take this offense to another level.
Yeah, I think Mike Denbrock is a pro, and Tommy Reese is. I mean, when he gets elevated to the position, he's a first-time offensive coordinator. Gerald Parker did it, but never on the level at Notre Dame. Now they have a pro doing it, and that's right. And that's where I think Marcus Freeman is the best. I mean, Marcus Freeman will go and he will get coaches that understand how to coach and know how to coach. And Marcus Freeman has this great way about him, and I'm sure it translates over in recruiting and how he develops relationships with college players and things like that.
I'll add on to that. I mean, you think back to, what was it, a year and a half ago, guys, when there was the big controversy about Notre Dame trying to get the Utah offensive coordinator, and he was at the Notre Dame hockey game. He was on the video board. He was on TV, and then all of a sudden he wasn't involved in the process. And a lot of fans felt like that Notre Dame wasn't willing to pay. Now, whether that was the truth or not, a buyout, guys, I honestly don't know. I've heard different things, depending on who you talk to. But if anyone had any doubt about Notre Dame's investment in Marcus Freeman in the program, look what's happened since. They re-upped Al Golden. They got Denbrock, who I believe is the highest paid coordinator in the country. And now they're starting construction on a brand new addition to the coop, so they have more space for everything that they need to do. So ever since that Utah thing, whatever happened, guys, they are all in on this football program, and I think they believe Marcus Freeman is the guy that can take them to the next level because his recruiting is great. He's got 2 awesome coordinators. I'll say this. I think Marcus has some work to do in proving to me that he's going to handle the game management situations. There were a couple last year that were very questionable. He gets those under control, guys. I just feel like sky's the limit for this football team, especially here now with 12 teams making the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm going to say that game management's going to happen because of the new coordinators that he has, and he's going to have more confidence and more trust in the coordinators that he has on those game day decisions. Hey, I've got a quick question for your running backs. Yeah. How deep are they at running back? I've heard names, but realistically, let's say somebody goes down like they did last year. How deep are they? Are they, because bottom line is Notre Dame's going to run the football. We can sit here and talk all we want. They're going to run the football.
Yeah, I tell you what, Coach, one of the things that kind of tells the story, Devin Ford was, at the tail end of their rotation at running back last year, they moved into safety because you've got Jeremiah Love and you got Jadarian Price. So I'm going to call 1A and 1B as your starting running backs. So you're in really good shape there. You got Jabron Payne, who gives you some different aspects of the running back position, including, in my opinion, the best guy picking up a blitzer coming in, so he might be your third down guy. And then you've got 2 freshmen coming in. We didn't get to see Kedron Young, but guys, he's got the body type of underestimate, and I'm not going to put any expectations on him, but if you watch him, it reminds you of him. But we saw Aeneas Williams, another freshman in the blue gold game. He was quick to the line of scrimmage, had a little bump to him. So, yeah, to answer your question, you lose a 13-yard running back, and Audric Estime will hear his name called, later this week in the NFL draft, to still having, I think, for sure, 3 guys they feel good about, and all the media members that follow recruiting and understand how the transition happens to Notre Dame. They feel like Keaton Young might be like Jeremiah Love last year as a freshman, see some important snaps in games this year. So the answer is they're in really good shape. The offensive tackles can do their job, guys. I think they could have an outstanding running game once again.
The sad part about college football or college athletics for that matter nowadays is, you take a kid like Steve Angeli, who's been a backup, played fairly well in the blue gold game, but is kind of sandwiched in between Riley Leonard and then the great freshman CJ Carr, and so you ask yourself, was that an audition for I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 other schools? Will Steve Angeli head into the quarterback portal, do you think?
Well, I know I never like to speculate too much because these are kids and they got decisions to make, but I think, Coach, you can make an argument that if Jelly wants to be a starter somewhere, that it's a tough call because Riley Leonard's been banged up and you don't know how healthy he may be. What if the ankle goes bad again? Well, he is your best choice at this time to be your guy. So if you leave and he gets hurt, you're missing out on a playoff opportunity. So it's kind of a catch-22. And I think we got to throw Kenny Minchey into the conversation. He might be in the worst shape because Riley Leonard and Steve Angeli are the now. CJ Carr, everybody you talk to, and I'm on the bandwagon too, he's the future. I think CJ Carr is the starting quarterback next year, guys, to be honest. So where does that leave Kenny Minchey? He's just caught in the middle with just put in a tough circumstance. It's not like he's a poor quarterback. He's a really good quarterback, but he's just in a situation right now where it's hard to see the end of the tunnel. In fact, I guess, Coach, I could make an argument more for Minchey going to the portal over Angeli at this time because I just think Steve is one play away from once again being the guy, and that's tough to walk away from. That's a tough decision.
I really think you're right. By the end of this week, I imagine there's going to be some meetings that we don't know that we know about that are going to happen. We just don't know when, and it's going to be those middle 2 people, and they're going to make a decision that we need one of you, but the other one's free to go because we don't need 4 quarterbacks. Because CJ Carr, obviously, if necessary, they could play him this year as a freshman, even though they may redshirt him. You just don't know.
It's. I mean, can you imagine, guys? Is there? And I don't know all the rosters. We're doing a little hypothetical, but let's also smartly guess that CJ Carr, without a doubt, is the best 4-string quarterback in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd be 1 and 2 in a lot of places. Notre Dame has not been in this spot, guys, in a long, long time. You might remember way back when Tyrone Willingham's first year. Pat Dillingham, a walk-on, had to start playing. Had the infamous green jersey, getting sacked, put the ball up in the air, and DC intercepts it and goes for a touchdown and wins 14-7, which started the beginning of the end for Willingham's first year and ultimately his career at Notre Dame. So you think about a walk-on being put into that spot way, way back when to now, one of the bright future quarterbacks in college football is your number 4 right now. That is pretty remarkable.
We have the great Darren Pritchett on with us on Coach's Corner with Heck and King. Darren, talk about the kicking game for Notre Dame because I know that they had to restart that over with a new place kicker and possibly a new punter too.
Yeah, I'll start with punter with McPherson going to the portal after averaging 45 yards a punt last year. I think it's pretty clear, and Marcus Freeman mentioned this, that they're going to go to the portal to find someone for at least competition. I would bet to be the starter because right now your punter more than likely would be Eric Goins, who was at the Citadel from 2012 to 2015 as a punter and a kicker, went to the U.S. Army for 7 or 8 years. So he's a 30-year-old student now at Notre Dame. And
Wow.
he would be your punter probably at this point. So there probably is a need to, go get somebody. So that's kind of an interesting story. Going's story is fascinating, guys. If you have a chance to read about him, I mean, he was it's crazy the stuff he was involved with in the military.
I was going to say, he doesn't need any NIL money. He can use his military pension.
That's hilarious, man.
He can buy his special team guys lunch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
You've been on
that's
Magic. You're taking Magic Mind, Pat? I like that.
That was a good one.
That was a great
That was one of
man.
my better ones there.
Yeah.
You have to do 20 years to get a pension, by the way.
So what about place kicking?
Don't ruin my story.
Oh gosh, that's great. Well, the place kicker, they brought in a kid from South Carolina by the name of Mitch Jeter, and of course, if Mr. Shepard at Yankee Stadium was still alive, he'd tell you the kicker, Nick Jeter, number 2.
You got to get the echo in there.
Bob Shepard, there you go. So anyway, he had great success, guys. An accurate kicker with a strong leg. I was watching him during warm-up Saturday, and with the wind at his back, he kicked one from 55 and it went halfway up the net.
Wow.
And in the game, he tried one into a gale force wind from 50, and it was right down the middle and came up like 2 yards short. So very accurate. He kicked against Notre Dame in the bowl game 2 years ago. So I think they're in great shape there. The punter's going to have to be worked out. The kid from Marshall, Jaden Harrison, guys, I think he could be a difference maker as a return man on kickoffs. He was outstanding at that at Marshall. So it's going to be a major weapon. So once they get the punter figured out, the other parts of special teams, I think, is well above adequate.
So last but not least, man, and yes, I am going to make you talk about this. Tell me about your St. Louis Cardinal baseball club, man.
I thought we were going to talk about my Boston Bruins playing the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. That's a lot more fun than talking about the Cardinals.
But this is why you're so good, because you can take this and you can spin it and you can make it sound good, man. Tell us about the Cardinals and Wilson Contreras.
Let me tell you, they wouldn't want me on St. Louis radio because I would. They're pretty soft in St. Louis. They're afraid of the ownership, so I wouldn't be so afraid as they are. But they're 9-13. And they have decided to go with a lot of young players on offense that probably weren't fully developed rather than spending the money on the free agent market. And 2 of those guys, Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman, are right now just scuffling as awful as you can imagine. Paul Goldschmidt's bat looks slow. He's hitting 170 at this time. And I'm really
saw that.
about him.
That really surprised me because, Goldie is he's a Hall of Famer.
Bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watching every night, he just can't catch up to the fastball, and that's a problem, guys. As you know, it's not good. And then the pitching, they go out and get Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson to kind of throw the rotation together. So it's a mess right now.
Sounds like a White Sox story.
Well, I tell you what, opening day, is a tradition in St. Louis, and the viewership on TV was down 25% from last year. It was the lowest viewership on opening day in 22 years. And the main problem is the owner and the GM keep saying, we're going to spend money. We're going to be competitive. We're going to raise the payroll. And they never do. So fans have finally said, we're sick of it. And Cardinal fans don't boo, but the GM and the owner got booed on opening day. And they haven't hit a home run in 8 days, guys.
Wow.
In an era where home runs are everything, they haven't homered in 8 stinking days. So I don't know if they could hit a home run with the wind blowing out at Wrigley Field at this point. It's a mess. So I picked them at the start of the year to go 73-99, and they're on pace to go 72-100 right now. So I'm looking smart, man.
Yeah.
That's all that matters is being right.
You're always looking smart. Hey, listen, man, we want to thank you for taking a couple minutes and spending some time on Coach's Corner with us. Your insight is always really, really good. Athletics and reporting and sports is your livelihood. So, and again, we want to thank you, man.
Guys, you can call anytime. I always enjoy talking with you guys. So anytime you want to jabber, play golf, I'm ready for you guys.
When,
So we'll do it.
when the Cardinals go above 500, we'll get him back on here. How's that?
Yeah, we'll get you back on when the
Well, I'll
Cardinals
talk to you
sweep
in
the Cubs.
2026, guys.
All right, Darren. Listen, man, thanks so much.
All right, guys, be good. We'll talk to you.
All right, thanks.
That is the great Darren Pritchett, man. He's he talked about pros being baseball players and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a pro in this
and
profession.
he just finished his show. He's got a show from 5 to 7 every night, and that's all he did was talk Notre Dame football and analyze it. So he turned around and had a chance to give us the short version here. So
Yeah,
we
hey,
appreciate that.
I mean, a couple college tidbits here. Mason Gillis from Newcastle. His dad is Big Bill Gillis, played at Ball State when I coached at Ball State. Bill played at North Central High School. But Mason Gillis, a 3-year starter at Purdue, came off the bench this year to develop some team chemistry a little bit, averaged about 6 points a game, is transferring and playing his last year of college eligibility at Duke. So
I read that.
So what does that do for you, man?
How long has he been at Purdue? 5 years?
5 years,
And
man.
he's got a COVID year, so he could have stayed for year 6, right?
Yes, he could
This
have.
was year 4. This is his grad transfer year.
Okay, I beg your pardon.
Thank you. That's why we have you
That's why
around.
you're
Yes,
here.
man.
He was in the same recruiting class with Zach Eady and Ethan Morton and Chase Martin and that group.
Yeah, and he could have stayed though. That's your comment.
Yeah, the thing was he had him one more year. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you're speaking of Purdue people. Brandon Newman had transferred to
Western
Kentucky, and I just saw that he's leaving Western Kentucky. I don't remember if he's made a new school or not. But he was at Western Kentucky, averaged 10 a game, and I think he was MVP of the tournament that they had. But he's going to be one and done at Western Kentucky down Bowling Green.
So I mean, the landscape of college basketball now is all. I mean, it almost makes me sick because Duke has a nice year. They advanced throughout the NCAA tournament, and they lose 7 players. Due to the portal.
Yes.
And so now Mason Gillis says, I got an opportunity. Let me go to Duke for a year, man. Let me see what that's like.
Why not?
And so the coach at Indiana State takes the job at St. Louis. He has a phenomenal season at Indiana State. Should have been in the NCAA tournament. Loses in the NIT championship game, 79-77 to Seton Hall. Has all 5 starters coming back at Indiana State, and he takes the St. Louis job. Now 2 players, Robbie Avila and Isaiah Swope, go with him to St. Louis. 2 other players go to Texas, and another player leaves. So all 5 starters.
All 5 starters. Ryan Conwell, the sophomore's going to Xavier.
Yeah.
He's an Indianapolis boy.
Yeah, all 5 starters leave. And I mean, Indiana State is building some momentum, man.
So Matthew Graves is basically starting with
Zip
the second 5.
Yeah, and we don't know who else
he
decided to
brings in.
stay, but Matthew Graves got that job. One of my ex-players who played for me at Edgewood, Mark Schlesinger, has been the head coach at the University of New Orleans for 13 years, the winningest coach in UNO's history. Just left New Orleans and is going to Indiana State as an associate head coach to be with Matt Graves. And we are going to talk to Mark Schlesinger next week, and we'll get a handle pretty much as to which players they're coming in to replace the Indiana State players. But so, I mean, you're an Indiana State fan. You're an Indiana State student. You're saying, man, Robbie Avilas, he's a junior. We got these other 4 starters back. We're building something at Indiana State. You ain't building nothing, man.
They all left.
You ain't building nothing because the coach leaves and they're all leaving. So now you're basically starting over from scratch at Indiana State.
Yes. And that's the hard part about these mid-majors. That's exactly what we were talking about all winter time, is the mid-majors have got it tough because if you're any good, if they're good, they're going to go someplace else.
Well, yeah, they're going to follow some money.
They're going
I mean, Indiana State, I don't know what their NIL the pocketbook is, but I'm sure St. Louis has a bigger pocketbook, and I'm sure Coach Scherzer says to Robbie Avila, "Hey, man, follow me, man. Here's another $50,000 extra."
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And it's probably a good move on the coach because Robbie probably could have gone someplace bigger if he wanted to. He's 6'10",
and averaging 17 points a game, and
in the Missouri Valley.
Yeah, just a
stuff.
really good player. So, I mean, that's Indiana State. My nephew, Jeremy
To be
Heckles.
fair to those two guys, though, you've always been able to transfer if your coach leaves.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think like Robbie and the other guy, I can't remember what his name was. You had said it.
Isaiah
Isaiah Swope.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think those two guys were probably going to leave and follow their coach anyway. Because, I mean, if you guys took another job like Dad, I'm sure you would have liked to have taken Kenny Love or Lee Booker or any of those guys with
Yeah,
you.
nice to go with him. That's for sure.
It's in high school basketball, you can't do that. I mean, you can't
Correct.
follow your coach, but college basketball and with NIL,
McIntosh
portal,
did it.
and all of that,
Yeah.
you can say, "I'll play." I mean, exactly like the kid from Valpo you were talking about.
Right.
I mean,
Brandon Newman, yep.
I played at Western Kentucky for a year. I mean, had a good year. Western Kentucky had a really nice year. Hey, let me go somewhere else. Let me see what it's like
See what
maybe
else
playing
is-
somewhere else.
Well, and here, I guess we could say locally here in northern Indiana, Fort Wayne kid from Central Noble, Connor Segian, that's been up at Wisconsin for the last 2 years. He is leaving, and he's going to Nebraska, which I think sounds like a great move to go. I mean, those two schools to me are similar.
Yeah, they're similar, and right now Fred Hoiberg is the flavor of the month.
Yeah.
Did a nice job in Nebraska. Brought Nebraska basketball up into the upper echelon of the Big Ten, and so we'll see if he gets any clock there. My nephew Jeremy Hecklinski should be
That's
going
right.
to his senior prom, right?
That's exactly
But
right.
he didn't, and he's not because he enrolled early at Wake Forest, and
They had their spring game.
and enrolled at Wake Forest in January. He's been through the whole weightlifting program. He played in the spring ball, and they had their black and gold game yesterday at Wake Forest. He was the number 2 quarterback, played against the number 1 D. And in one half of play, Jeremy Hecklinski went 13 for 20 for about 210 yards and 3 touchdowns.
So he's in a similar situation to what CJ Carr has done
Yeah.
here at Notre Dame, where he left high school at Christmas time and enrolled early so he could be part of the spring game, as you just said.
And so Wake Forest brought in a senior transfer quarterback out of the portal who's really good. And so, let the senior play and let Jeremy learn and get reps in practice and things like that. But he showed really, really well for himself. Let me talk about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever and Greg Doyle making some kind of he's kind of a jokester, kind of a clown at times. And he makes a comment at her introductory press conference, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And right now,
Who would love to sound off about Doyle?
Dan Dockich.
Yeah.
I'm sure he already has.
Call him right now. See what he's doing.
I'm sure that
That might be a
that he had
daily episode.
that he had a feast in Outkick.
Yeah, I'm sure he has. But Caitlin Clark is she's the latest flavor of the month here for the Indiana Fever. WNBA, the ticket sales are going skyrocketing. Somebody mentioned this morning on ESPN, I was listening, they said, the NBA was really struggling back in the 70s, and then all of a sudden these two guys named Bird and Magic Johnson showed up into the early 80s, and all of a sudden, boom, it just exploded. Now you add Michael Jordan to it 5 years later, and that's when the NBA just skyrocketed in popularity. Maybe right now that's what the WNBA is going through with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and these other girls, the big girl from South Carolina. Matter of fact, they're going to be teammates. I think Reese and Cardoso are going to be teammates for the Chicago Sky. But anyway, the introductory meeting the other day, Indianapolis,
Yeah,
Greg-
do it, show it.
Greg Doyle introduces himself probably to her for the first time, and he even says Greg Doyle, Indy Star, and she doesn't know who he is, but he's probably going to be the beat writer for she's going to see him every day during the winter or during the summertime. But he gives that little heart sign as Scott just showed, and she says something about that's you. Do you like that? That's what I do with with the family after for every ball game. He said yes. And then the next thing that happened was what people jumped all off the ship about, whether it was creepy or just silly or a joke or whatever it was. But he said something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, that, well, if you do that for me, we will get along just fine.
I have the video. Do you want me to play it?
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Put that up, man. Put that up. That's why this show is at another level now, because we can talk about it. We can have our listeners listen. But this is the actual video. Go ahead.
Hi,
Can you hear that?
Greg Doyle, Indy Star.
Yeah.
You can't hear it?
You like that?
I like that you're here. I like
Yeah.
that you're here.
I do that at my family after every game, so
Okay, well,
Very
let's
cool.
start doing it to me and we'll be able to get along just fine. So, question is,
You start doing that for me and we'll get along just fine.
Yeah, and that's.
And that tells me that he was trying to crack a joke to try to break the ice, knowing that he's going to basically see her almost every home game because he will be the one doing the game interviews. And she probably didn't know that. And of course, everybody on Twitter and X and everything else, whatever that's called now, they're having a field day on, talk about how creepy he is. So,
Well, and I think the funny thing a lot of people pointed out is he's not married. Boy, wonder why.
he,
Stop it, Scotty.
He walks dogs for WAG.
All right.
I don't want to get into the thing because that's what I don't like about the talk shows is they don't talk about sports anymore. They talk about what each other said, Well, Stephen A said this, or Dockage said this, and then
Heck said this.
or Heck said this, and they want to pick on you. Or
Or
Barkley
the
did
producer
this.
with no face said this.
Yeah,
Yeah, with a voice. Who is he?
Charles Barkley said this, or Shaq said this. I don't care. Just show me the ball game.
Boris Charkley?
Yes, that's him.
Okay, Boris Charkley. Hey, how can we come to the end of this show and not even talk about the NFL draft? Come on, the NFL draft is Thursday, man. It's Thursday, and I will be glued to the television set because, as you see, I'm a Chicago Bear guy. I got my Chicago Bear hat covering the hole in my head from skin cancer.
Let's don't forget about the leakage we have here.
Hey, heck, you got a hole in your head. Well, I do now. So the NFL draft. Anyway, I just
Who
I'm
has the
excited.
first pick?
The Chicago Bears. Are you kidding me? So
They haven't traded it away yet.
no, the Chicago Bears are picking Caleb Williams,
I just checked.
the quarterback for the Southern Cal Trojans, and he obviously is the best quarterback in the draft, and is really special. But I think the draft gets really good here because after the Bears, and it's a quarterback heavy draft.
You've got all
there's
32
four-
teams in order.
There's four great quarterbacks, and maybe five if you throw Bo Nix in there. But you got Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy. And those last three you can mix up in any order. But in pick number 2, you got the Commanders. They need a quarterback. Pick number 3, you got the Patriots. They need a quarterback. But here's where it gets a little dicey. Pick number 4, the Cardinals have Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't need a quarterback. So there are 3 great wide receivers in this draft, in Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, and Malik Neighbors from LSU. Now, will the Arizona Cardinals maybe trade down? Maybe trade down with maybe the Vikings. The Vikings got pick number 11 and pick number 23. So the Cardinals trade down. The Vikings move up because the Vikings do need a quarterback.
Need a quarterback.
So will the Vikings trade up, take Drake May? Will the Vikings trade with the Chargers? the Chargers have number 5. Let's say the prognosticators say that the Cardinals may choose Marvin Harrison. Well, the Chargers don't need a quarterback. They need a lot of stuff. Jim Harbaugh came in. They've lost a lot of wide receivers. Their salary cap was a mess. They were millions over. So they traded a lot of people. So will the Chargers trade down to maybe one of those teams, maybe the Vikings? And if the Chargers trade down, then the Vikings trade up and take J.J. McCarthy, who everybody says is probably going to be one of the best out of this group.
They like him. They sure do. Well, and it's a Michigan quarterback going with his former coach.
Well, yeah, but Jim Harbaugh, who's the head coach at the Chargers, has a great quarterback in Justin Herbert, so he doesn't need a quarterback. So the scenarios of teams trading down, trading up, the Giants are at number 6. The Giants may take a wide receiver, Rome Odunze. The Titans are at number 7. They need a left tackle, the great Joe Alt from Notre Dame. The Falcons are at number 8. They're talking about an edge rusher. But the Falcons could take Malik Neighbors from LSU. And then the Bears again are on the clock at number 9.
The Bears again.
But here's the deal with the Bears. If one of those 3 receivers are there, Marvin Harrison, and obviously he won't be. If Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors are there, the Bears will take one of those receivers and pair that young receiver.
And he'll be the number 1 receiver with the new quarterback.
Well, I mean, he won't be the number 1. He'll be the number 3 to start with, because you got DJ Moore and you got the kid that they just brought over, Keenan Allen, from the Chargers. So he would be the number 3. But then his chemistry that he would form with the new quarterback. If those 3 receivers and Joe Alt are gone, then I would look for the Bears to trade down, maybe with the Colts, maybe with the Saints, and because the Bears do not have a number 2 pick. So in any trade down scenario, the Bears would trade down for a second-round pick and also that team's first-round pick, and then maybe even a third-round pick. So you can expect the Bears, if one of those 3 receivers are there, the Bears will take one of them. If the left tackle from Notre Dame, Joe Alt, is there, you can maybe think that the Bears could take him.
So that's their short list, is what you might call it.
I'm just saying. Now, when it happens on Thursday night, call me.
You can say, heck, you were right.
No, 765-623-5527. Call me, and we'll chat about it.
And you can say, heck, you were right.
Heck, you were right, or you don't know what you're talking about. You got a hole in your head, and brains are running out as we're speaking right now. But I think that the NFL draft is, and the NFL draft is in Detroit this year. Now, if it wasn't such a risk that you might get shot, I think it would be kind of cool to go to, man.
It was at Grant Park a couple of years ago. They lived through that one.
Yeah.
Go hang out on 8 Mile.
Yeah. And by the way, at the NFL draft, you've got the NBA playoffs, game 2 for everybody. It actually is tonight. And we were going to only one road team won game 1 over the weekend. The only people that won the game, Orlando beat Cleveland at Cleveland. So they know, they got their split. So tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday, you've got a lot of teams in game 2 that are the visiting teams trying to win to get that, split so they can go home with a, 1-1, and we continue from that. So we've got NBA on every night, for the next two months.
I think the NBA sets that they have with Shaq and Charles Barkley and Kenny the Jet,
they're fun.
I think they are so great to watch those guys at halftime and pregame and postgame.
Talk about those big women in San Antonio.
I would say the only thing we haven't talked about right now, we were going to mention IU basketball, just to say we did. IU has 3 new players.
Okay, let me do a sponsor spot here, and then we'll do that. I need to get this in. Thanks, Tony Lesher with Health Markets Insurance. Whether you need help with your health insurance or Medicare, man, for the right price, give Tony a call. And you see his information there at 574-307-8882, or visit Tony's website at tletcher.com. Hahn Funeral Home, man, they've been with us for, and what did I say? This is our 33rd show.
Yes.
Our 33rd show. These sponsors have been great for us all year long. the experience that the Hahn Funeral Home people have as funeral directors and staff. They'll be there to help you every step of the way for all of your family's needs. Get a hold of Pat Hahn and the great crew at Hahn Funeral Home at 574-255-1474. Magic Mind, again. For me, it's been great. It's been great, and it's helped my clarity, helps my focus, helps me to remember things. And my stress levels are certainly a lot lower. And so check in with Magic Mind, magicmind.com. Type in Coach's Corner 20 and get a 20% discount, and start and see what you think. And see what you think on Magic Mind. Frick's Driving, man, they've been really good to you, haven't they?
They've been really good to me. They've been around for 55, 60 years. So get on the phone and you can call Frick's. Their numbers are there on our website, and you can get a hold of Doug and Joe Lynn down there and get your driving set up and go from there. So. Scott, you're doing a great job. Hey, I'm gonna finish with IU.
Yeah, talk about IU transfers.
We said IU's lost a few players. We mentioned
they might be 8th in the conference next year.
Okay. He's good, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't.
Hey, it's an improvement.
If he is, that will be the last year for the coaching staff. The Kalu Ware's going to the NBA, so we will find out.
Lifetime contract.
Well, okay. Here's my deal. If you're going to bring in the big here from Arizona, Ballo,
yeah,
and you have maybe a first-round draft choice that played for you this year, Ware,
yes,
who at 7-1, and he had good numbers, and you couldn't win with him as a post player.
You have to bring some
He's a
support
much
people
better
in.
scorer than Omar Ballo is.
Caleb Banks is leaving. We mentioned that he's still shopping. CJ Gunn is going to DePaul. So that's he's just made a decision. We mentioned Peyton Sparks. We said maybe he'll knock on the door and say, "Hey, can I come back home to Ball State?" Well, that did happen.
And Michael answered and said, "Come in, son."
So he's going back to Ball State, and that. So, but they do have some. It looks like they've headed west because they've got 3 new names coming in from the Pac-12. Kanan Carlisle from Stanford. A guard that averaged 11.5 a game. He was honorable mention Pac-12 all-freshman team. Miles Rice from Washington State. They were really good this year.
Yes, they were.
He was Pac-12 freshman of the year. Averaged almost 15 a game, 3.5 assists, and 3 rebounds a game. So between Carlisle, Rice, and Ballo from Arizona, they've got 3 quality people right off the bat. Matter of fact, some of the experts are claiming that IU is one of the top 1 or 2 teams in the transfers right now, as far as evaluating who's doing what. You mentioned that the Purdue kid is going to Duke. You already mentioned that
Mason
one.
Gillis.
Yes, mentioned that one. So
what does that tell you about IU basketball?
That's the IU
right
information. IU is trying to improve.
Well, what's that tell you about IU basketball right now?
Because their recruiting class from high school was a flop, so they had to get desperate.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
They're going to the Pac-12 to get players.
No, it tells me that somebody stepped up and donated a lot of NIL money to bring these players in because Ballo is not coming to Indiana from Arizona.
They're not coming for free,
unless it's a financial gain for him. And I got to believe he was making great money at Arizona.
You would think so.
Can you think of a particular Indiana alum that maybe just came into a lot of money here recently?
Help me with that, will you?
Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban?
Yeah, well, yeah, it could be. It could be, but no. But my point is, the money is coming in somewhere.
The bucket got a little deeper, didn't it?
Yeah, and Carlisle from Stanford.
I know.
That's a great school.
I said to get 3 guys from the Pac-12.
Those are great schools.
What used to be the Pac-12,
and probably we're getting a pretty decent collectible and NIL money, and so now IU has stepped up and opened up the bucket, just like they did for the new football coach, Coach Cignetti, who came in and new players everywhere. And that just doesn't happen, folks. That tells me that IU went to the money guys and said
we need
if we're going to be successful, it's about money now.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, I have a question.
Fire.
At what point do people start sounding the alarms and saying, "Hey, this is not in the spirit of name, image, and likeness. We are just paying players," because they haven't even stepped foot on campus, and everybody's talking about, "Oh, here's how much money the school offered them." Well, I didn't think that was the point of this whole deal.
They're not going to get it. They're not worried about the commercial. They're going to get it at the local car dealership anymore.
Yeah, but that was the point of NIL, was being able to go to the Tippecanoe Mall and sign autographs for $20 a pop.
Well, yeah, but the problem with it is, and will be until they get some parameters set. There were no parameters.
There's no rules. It's wild,
there were no
wild
rules.
West.
It was the wild, wild west, and anything could be linked under NIL. I'm gonna give you $1 million to talk about Arby's sandwiches twice a week.
Yeah, here goes blue chip.
Do you think it was possible that in the NCAA's wanting to be expedient and seeming like they were doing something, do you think they ended up doing the wrong thing, and that there are no guardrails to any of this?
Yeah, I don't think. And
you're exactly right.
And there's no going back.
So, and everything Reggie Bush did back in 03, 04, 05 that basically took his Heisman away from him is now legal. Everything
that Jimmy and Jawan and Ray and all of them did at Michigan. Or I'm sorry, the team up north. Dang,
hey, Neon didn't even want a car. Neon did not want a car. All Ricky wanted was a tractor.
Tomorrow is tequila night here at Bar Louie.
Here, Heck, say something about the Cubs. How are the Cubs doing?
Cubs are doing really good. They have major injuries. Ian Happ's been out. Seiya Suzuki's been out. Their best pitcher, Justin Steele's been out. And I believe they're 13-8 right now, and they're playing really good. Craig Counsell is a great manager, to be honest with you. The White Sox stink. We don't even have time to go into their issues, but we know.
Here's a fun stat. You want to hear this one?
What?
You know what major league team has the most home runs at the artist formerly known as Comiskey?
It's not the White Sox.
It's the Reds.
Yeah, well, they played him in a 3-game set, so that's probably right. That's probably right, man.
Wednesday
I saw something where the some team, it might be the Reds. The Reds have it's the artist formerly known as the Indians. They have more home runs than the White Sox have hits.
Yeah, it's a pathetic scenario, and Jerry Reinsdorf ought to be ashamed of that deal because 3 years ago, when they fired Ricky Renteria, they had a chance to hire A.J. Hinch, and instead they brought his buddy back, Tony La Russa, who's been out of the game 100 years.
Wednesday night is tequila night. You can see here at Happy Hour is back 5 days a week here at Bar Louie. And 4 to 7, they've got a list of things here, but 50% off their bar bites, all the flatbeds, the chicken tenders. So we're thrilled to death that
you going to Lowe's?
Flatbreads. There's an R in there. I beg your pardon. So Happy Hour
Trying to loosen my load.
Hey, we
Eagles, man.
We have gone 20 different directions, and we are back to the finish line.
Yes, and it's been a great show tonight. Thanks for tuning in and listening to a couple of crazy dudes. I do have a hole in my head. People have been saying it for years. I do. It is really kind of like when Harry Carey and Jimmy Pearsall used to work together as announcers with the Chicago White Sox. And Jimmy Pearsall and Harry Carey would say, "Jimmy, you're crazy." And Jimmy Pearsall would say, "I know, Harry. Yes. I got papers to prove it." That's kind of where we
Steve
are.
Stone felt working with Hawk.
The Hawkaroo. Hey, listen. Hey, Scott, thanks for putting this together and taking care of us. Pat, you're the best.
We will be back next week, same time, same place.
Yes, sir. Thanks for tuning in.
We will talk about the draft some more next week.
Coach's Corner with Heck and King. Adios.
All right, bye now.
The Black Sedan Band. Come on, man.